Want to bring you guys an update on some escapes that we've been talking about as of late. And I also want to share with you a story in relation to a prison escape that is just absolutely unbelievable. Probably one of the craziest prison escapes that you have never heard about, involving a prisoner who was on death row and who actually was allowed to leave from the prison under his own free will. And lo and behold, he never came back and was never to be seen again. But we'll begin this with that little bit of a cliffhanger right there, and let's get to some updates in relation to some escape stories that we've been talking about as of late. Folks, there have been 5 escapes that we've been sharing about, 2 in the state of Louisiana, 2 in the state of Ohio, 1 in Arkansas. In the state of Ohio, one of those escapes involved 4 individuals from a minimum security facility. The other escape was just one guy by himself, but in relation to the first escape involving the 4 prisoners, 1 of those individuals has been apprehended and captured. And you probably guessed it, it's this guy right here. 30-year-old Jeremy Bowden. Actually, you probably didn't guess it. Yeah, we never really said, hey, which of these 4 do you think would get locked up first? I kind of feel like I would have picked this guy. Inmate who escaped minimum security facility in Ohio, arrested, 3 remain on the run. Now, if I can remember correctly, Jeremy Bowden was halfway through a 3-year sentence when this dummy did this, only to remain a fugitive for a whopping 3 to 4 days before apprehension. You gotta wonder, was it worth it for this guy? What in the world would make an individual who only has a 1.5 years left to serve at a minimum security facility, undoubtedly a relatively lax place to serve time at, escape? What makes a guy do this? Is it because he's missing his girlfriend so bad, like, yo, I just got to get back out there to her? Or is it the drugs? I wonder if this guy was just nicking and jonesing for the rush. Maybe if it wasn't one that comes from narcotics, potentially it could have been one that comes from the rush of escape. Always looking over your shoulder, never knowing exactly where the authorities are or how close they are to you. Sort of like that saying goes about a spider. But there's this old saying about a spider that there's always one usually within about 6 feet of you. Could be something similar. Being a fugitive, trying to evade capture. Not a lot of details in relation to how they caught this guy or anything like that. They just said that one of the 4 inmates who escaped the minimum security facility in central Ohio last weekend has been arrested. Online jail records in Franklin County show that Jeremy Bowden, 30, was arrested on Saturday. News reported that Bowden was one of 4 inmates who escaped the Franklin County community-based correctional facility in Columbus on Thursday by smashing through a window. Will additional time be added on to this guy's sentence? Probably so. 3 other inmates, Mark Long, Nico Burton, and Michael Norton, are still on the run. All 4 have been charged with escape. That's huge right there. And also answers my previous question. They're definitely going to get some time added on to their sentence. And warrants are still out for Long, Burton, and Norton. The news reported that the facility serves as a residential prison diversion program for adult male offenders. Bowen, Burton, and Norton were all in the facility to complete the program for a parole violation. Long was completing the program for a felony theft charge. When I hear program prison, it reminds me of a place in my state called Indian Creek. That too is a program prison. You've got to sit through like 8 hours of group a day. It can be torturous to some. And sometimes being in a program prison can be worse than being in a regular prison for some guys. You can't rip and run and do what you want to do. You have to follow the rules, even more so, especially at a program prison. Maybe that's why they smashed the window to escape. I wonder if Buddy's going to roll over on the other 3 to try to save his own skin, because now it's probably starting to sink in. How much time does an escape charge carry? Shit. Hey, I know where them guys are at, possibly what he's thinking about sharing. And he probably doesn't have a clue, actually. Moving on to another escape that's probably going to end up rivaling the one down in New Orleans for the most ambitious and downright crazy escape of the lot, is in Arkansas, involving a former police chief who just recently escaped from prison while serving like 80 years for murder and charges. And to go even further, what makes this story just so incredible is the fact that this guy was able to escape using a makeshift law enforcement uniform. Folks, we're seeing an image right here of the escapee, former police chief Grant Hardin, 56 years old, looks to be walking out of the prison, accompanying some sort of a cart that he's pulling along right there with him. They say he escaped from the state prison in northern Arkansas on Sunday afternoon after he appears to have tried to imitate law enforcement to break out. One thing that I really want to harp on first and foremost about this particular story is the location in which this prison is located. This thing looks like it is in the middle of nowhere. Now, something that I haven't seen mentioned is exactly how long it was before the authorities realized this guy was gone. Because it had to be some time. Given the remote location of where this prison is located at, this guy was going to need some time to get away. But more likely the case, some sort of a getaway driver or vehicle. Did he have an accomplice? Was there a woman involved, a loved one involved, a family member who was there waiting outside the gate to pick this guy up? And if there was, how exactly did he get away with orchestrating this without the prison first catching wind of what he was trying to do? How he escaped. Hardin escaped a North Central Unit prison in Calico Rock around 3:40 p.m. Sunday. It appears at the time of his escape, Hardin was wearing a makeshift outfit disguised to mimic law enforcement, but was not wearing a Department of Corrections uniform. That's new information to us right there, folks. I had shared with you that at a prison I was at in the past, now this was a low-level facility, prisoners could easily, if they wanted to, get their hands on an actual DOC correctional uniform because the prison population manufactured the uniforms there, which I think is absolutely flabbergasting to think about given situations like this occurring. So this guy made a fake guard attire, and it was passable, good enough, damn near perfect for him to pull this off. It did not share any other information on how he is thought to have escaped. Yeah, clearly he just walked right out the front door of this place. So you're probably not going to want to put that out there. A surveillance image appears to show Hardin wearing black pants, a black t-shirt, and a black baseball cap, as well as an additional item that looks like a bulletproof vest. Oh my God. This is a horrible guy, serving time for horrible things. But just imagine a prisoner sitting in a cell fashioning these items. Late at night, after lights out, did he have a cellie? Couldn't have. What did he make that bulletproof vest out of? Books? Magazines? I've shared with you guys in the past, many years ago, how prisoners will actually protect themselves when they feel like a shank attack is imminent. Literally saran wrapping magazines and newspapers to their body, making body armor. This guy did something similar, but took it to the next level for sure. He appears to be wheeling a cart, holding a box and several pieces of wood. Authorities believe he exited through a sally port, a controlled and secured entry point found in places such as prisons. He knew what to do. This guy knew who he was going to imitate, had seen it done countless times before. This guard, let's just say hypothetically, I'm just using this as an example, that he imitated, was known to wheel out this cart with debris, maybe from a woodworking shop. Hey, hit the little whistle. Roll the gate, roll the gate. Maybe he looked similar to this guy. It was something that happened day in and day out at this facility. So what made it so different on this particular day? At first glance, nothing at all. So no one even batted an eye when this guy, disguised as the normal person who would carry out this task, took place of them and used this routine to escape. This is as elaborate, in my personal opinion, as everything that took place down in New Orleans. Even though they were cutting through block and steel walls with beard trimmers, what this particular guy did certainly rivals that. He served as a police officer, a police chief, and a county constable throughout his career, according to an investigation discovery documentary on the case. Oh, wow, they actually did a documentary on this guy. The search for Hardin As of 11:30 p.m. local time on Sunday, Hardin still had not been located, the Arkansas Department of Corrections said in an updated news release. Officials continued to utilize a variety of means to track Hardin, as well as investigating the events that led up to his escape. The Department of Corrections said Sunday night further updates will be provided as they become available. They said a variety of tactics had been utilized. The first is put that bloodhound outside the gate to try to catch wind of this guy's trail. But clearly, that trail ran cold, probably pretty quickly, meaning this guy had additional means in place to further carry out this escape. There's no point in going through all of this effort that was put into this if there's no real plan set in place for what comes immediately after you get beyond those gates. And I can all but guarantee this guy had some sort of means established. With so many escapes that we've been sharing about and have been taking place as of late, some of these are what I consider to be as crazy as it gets. This happens all the time. And probably in more cases than not, we don't hear about it because it doesn't make the national news like the New Orleans situation or this Arkansas situation. Had the New Orleans escape never taken place, best believe the Arkansas escape would have made national news. But you've got two escapes taking place right around the same time that are national news worthy. So every escape that takes place at this point, the world will be highly sensitive to. But again, like I said, escapes are nothing new. The most outlandish and brazen, they've been happening all throughout history. Oftentimes we forget about them, or maybe we've never even heard of them. Like this particular story I want to share with you right now that took place also in Ohio back in 1973, involving a prisoner who was on death row, but who was given the opportunity to walk freely out of the gates of prison on what was referred to as a furlough to go Christmas shopping. I shit you not. Oh, and by the way, this guy is still on the run right now. So when you think that nobody ever gets away, well, sometimes they do. Like this fella right here. Folks, let me introduce you to Lester Eubanks, who escaped from prison 45 years ago. He too was locked up for the most heinous and egregious of charges, a murder and charge involving a young person. But allegedly, because of good behavior, this convicted killer was allowed to go Christmas shopping in 1973, and he hasn't been seen since. Lester Eubanks was born in 1943. He disappeared from prison in 1973. He would have been 33 years old at the time of his escape. His current status is fugitive. His current age, if still alive, is 81. And if still alive, this guy has lived the last 45 years of his life a hell of a lot better than the first 33 years of it, when he would be allowed to go Christmas shopping after a murder conviction, being on death row, and he would just not come back to prison. You know what? I got all these Christmas gifts right here. What am I doing going back to prison? I'm out of here. So this Wikipedia says that this guy escaped from prison in 1973 and has been at large ever since. After escaping from prison, he moved to California, where he was known as Victor Young. He is on the United States Marshal Service 15 Most Wanted Fugitives list. I don't know where they got the information about the fact that he moved to California and his alias. Clearly, some people knew him and shared that information, but even with that, they still weren't able to catch up to this guy. Eubanks was born on October 31st, 1943. He lived in Mansfield, Ohio. By 1965, Eubanks was a serial sexual offender. Real prize you guys let back out into the streets. He had been arrested twice before for crimes. In November of 1965, Eubanks was out for bond on a charge. So he murdered a 14-year-old named Mary Ellen Diener. And at the time that he did this, he was out on bond for another heinous charge. A 14-year-old girl who was a resident of Mansfield left her home to do laundry at a local laundromat in town, which was located near the home of her grandmother. She left the laundromat temporarily to retrieve change from a different nearby laundromat. While she was walking from one laundromat to the other, Eubanks grabbed her, pulled her behind a house, and attempted to assault her. She resisted and Eubanks shot her twice in the stomach. Eubanks left her and went back home to clean and dress himself. He returned 20 minutes later and saw she was still breathing, and then picked up a brick and struck her in the head to kill her. Police found her body 2 hours later. The next day, Eubanks was arrested at his home where he confessed to the murder. He was charged with first-degree murder and attempted. He was ultimately sentenced to death by electrocution, and he would live on death row for they don't say how long, but eventually his sentence was commuted to life without the possibility of parole in 1972. How you got a guy who has life without the possibility of parole being let out to go Christmas shopping? Yeah, this is making me a little angry, to be honest. And I'm reading here the only reason why his death sentence was commuted to life is because they abolished the death penalty during this time. They said that Eubanks was 3 days from being executed when his sentence was commuted. That is wild. Eubanks was given letters of recommendation by prison guards to join an honor inmate program that took inmates outside of the prison. Eubanks spent his time in prison painting and receiving some awards for his work. In the months leading up to the escape, the number of visitations to Eubanks in prison drastically increased. This guy was going viral without social media. As a part of the honor program, he was given a temporary furlough to go outside to do Christmas shopping on December 7th, 1973. He and 3 other inmates were brought to the Great Southern Shopping Mall in southern Columbus, where he was given the opportunity to roam the mall unescorted, with the only stipulation to arrive back to the officers at the appropriate time. He was dropped off at the mall at 10 a.m., and upon entering the mall, the inmates split up. When the visiting time was up, the Ohio Department of Corrections security team went to collect Eubanks. Could you imagine going shopping in a mall and seeing a prison van pulling up in front talking about, okay, guys, just be back at the pickup time. Let's take the leg restraints and shackles off. When the visiting time was up, the Ohio Department of Corrections security team went to collect Eubanks, who was missing. No shit. Investigators say he was picked up by a close associate who drove him to Detroit, Michigan, where he lived for 2 weeks. And then he got on a bus to California afterwards. He was almost caught when the bus was stopped on an interstate by officers looking to see if illegal substances were being trafficked. That's crazy. They had dude twice. The first time was 3 days before he was set to be executed when they abolished the death penalty. And then the second time, they had the bus pulled over. But they were searching for the wrong thing. In 1975, Eubanks lived with a woman named Kay Banks in Los Angeles, California, under the name Victor Young. He signed his paintings under this name at various times. He lived in the Los Angeles neighborhoods of Gardena, North Hollywood, Long Beach, and South Los Angeles. In the 1980s, he worked at a waterbed manufacturing factory. In the 1980s or early 90s, he worked as a janitor at a hospital. In the early 90s, it was discovered that a federal warrant for Eubanks had been removed from the federal warrant database, which explained how he could live for 2 decades without getting caught. How did that happen? That's crazy to know. Did he have somebody on the inside pull some strings for him? In 1994, he was subject to an episode of America's Most Wanted. The Los Angeles police received thousands of tips. After watching the show, Kay Banks gave the police a tip that she had been living with him for years. When police interrogated her, she confessed to living with him and said he lived with her up until a few years prior. She said Eubanks was a bully, so she told him someone was looking into him, which caused him to leave. They said he lived in Alabama at some point before 2003. He worked as a janitor at a center for troubled youth. In 2003, investigators talked to his father, who refused to talk about his son. They said he even moved back to Ohio in 2003 to attend funerals for family members. In 2018, Eubanks was listed on the United States Marshal Service 15 Most Wanted Fugitives list, and as of 2025, he still remains on the list. The Marshal Service is offering a reward up to $50,000 for information that leads to his capture. Just when you think you've heard it all, we've got prisoners cutting through walls with hair clippers. We've got prisoners impersonating and making guards' uniforms late at night in their cell to walk right out through the sally port of a prison to escape. And folks, we've got prisoners who are being let out from death row to the mall's front steps to go shopping during Christmas time and just never coming back when their ride was there to pick them up. Hey, I just wanted to share all of this with you guys. I hope you found some interest and enjoyment in this. And if you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you guys think of all of this. Also, if you haven't subscribed to After Prison Show and you are finding enjoyment in these videos, please consider doing so and hitting those bell notifications so that you never miss an upload. That would certainly be appreciated and also go a long ways to helping to support the channel. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted and make the most of every day. Peace!